11-3 last year, led once again by Matt Campbell, who's become a household name in college football, known as one of the better coaches. People keep wondering if he's going to jump ship, but I believe he just got extended. So shout out to him. He's making like $5 million a year now. Key players for them, guys to look out for: Rocco Becht at QB. In his third year there now, he put up 3,500 passing yards last year, threw for 25 touchdowns, had 9 picks. The engine of their team. Carson Hansen coming back at running back for them. He had 752 yards and 13 touchdowns for them last year. Of note, though, the key losses offensively, they lose Jalen Noel and Jaden Higgins, their 2-star wide receivers last year. Both go to the Houston Texans. They're going to have to find a way to replace them. Maybe the options are in-house, guys they brought in the transfer portal. Regardless, though, for a team that doesn't always have the most talent, replacing those two guys is going to be tough. And then defensively, a couple guys to look out for: Jeremiah Cooper, safety, had 48 tackles and 2 picks for them last year, another leader of the defense there. And then Akina Ezugu had 19 tackles and 1 sack for them last year. So he's a guy to look out for as well on the defense. My biggest question is Rocco Becht going to perform the same without those 2 wide receivers?
I would say no. I mean, I feel like I'm trying to pull the depth chart. Do you
Sure.
know who they have kind of as replacements? Did they go transfer portal or?
It was a mix of both, I
Okay.
believe. I don't have any on the top of my head. I should have wrote one down, but I think needless to say, they didn't make the key players list.
Yeah,
so
they've got
no stars.
2 transfers projected to start: Xavier Townsend and Chase Sowell.
I believe they brought in some guys from lower levels as well. So
Townsend came from UCF,
yeah.
and Chase came from Colorado. So
Okay, so same level.
Yeah.
But
he had 678 yards and 3 touchdowns last year. So not remarkable play, but depending on your faith in Rocco Becht and whether or not, if you think the wide receivers were elite and he was dependent on them, or if you think that he was very good and the wide receivers benefited from that, then those wide receivers that they brought in could definitely be adequate replacements.
sure.
I think he's going to perform just as well. In fact, I think he has a chance to perform better. Yes, last year was his redshirt sophomore season. He started his redshirt freshman season. His numbers that year were 3,100, 23 touchdowns. But the big thing for me is freshman redshirt starting 8 picks. Last year, 9 picks. And like I said earlier, not turning over the football is a large part in winning these games, and he is good at that. He's shown that. Only throwing 17 picks through 2 seasons being a starter. I think he's going to take another step potentially. Sure. And I think maybe we're talking about him a year from now as a guy who, he has a good season. He's draft potential on him. I like what I see when I watch him. I watched highlights of him today during my lunch break. And while the loss of Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, can't be understated.
Sure.
Is that the right use of that phrase?
It can't be overstated?
It can't be overstated. Do you think it was a big loss?
Yes.
Then it can't be overstated.
It can't be overstated.
You cannot say it enough how important they were.
I believe in Rocco Becht. I think he's been consistent, especially through 2 years, and he's still technically not in his college football prime.
Yeah,
he's draft eligible after this year, so he really should.
He was a redshirt freshman last year.
He was last year was his redshirt sophomore year.
So he was draft eligible.
You have to play through your junior season.
That was his 3rd year. He was a redshirt sophomore.
Yes, but he got redshirted, so he's.
You can go as a redshirt sophomore.
You can go Johnny Manziel when it's redshirt sophomore.
Whatever, man. Y'all are just liars. Regardless. Okay, cool. He's draft eligible. Well, he didn't go in the draft. And he won't go in the draft after this year. But I think he's going to play better this year than he did last year. I think he's solid quarterback.
Fair.
I don't know if we're going to do it at some point, but he would be in whatever that ranking is that we might do. But I don't think we're going to do it. So.
We'll do it over text, and I'll post it.
Sure. I would think I'd put him up there in that class.
That's fair. Second question I have for y'all real quick. They had 16 sacks last year, which was the worst mark in the Big 12. Kind of looking at the guys they brought in. I already mentioned one of them, Akina Eziogu. when I mentioned him, you're probably like, okay, 19 tackles and 1 sack. Why is he getting mentioned? He's projected to start on the edge as a returner because they just don't really have good edge rushers. They didn't really bring in great talent there either in the transfer portal. Across from him is probably going to be Tomato. That's not actually his name, but sorry. Tomatau McDonough, who's coming from Yale, so a lower level. I'm very worried that the pass rush isn't going to improve. Now, aside from that, they had a solid defense last year, but that could really take them up a level. Do you all have any concerns about that?
I mean, I am a firm. If the guys didn't show, like if you had 16 tackles last year and you were 16 sacks last year and you didn't take steps to improve that, I would have some concerns.
Very fair.
Unless Matt Campbell is very confident in his ability to develop those guys in the offseason, which I wouldn't be the most confident in, given it's the Big 12 and defense is not the strong suit of that conference. So I'd be pretty concerned.
They had 16 sacks last year.
Yes.
They won 11 games.
Yes.
So even if they didn't make improvements there, they won 11 games last year despite 16 sacks. So if there's even a marginal improvement there, one could argue they would win the national championship.
Yeah.
But
Or
I think because of that, even if there's a marginal improvement, they shouldn't expect a deep drop. I like
you
their
can't really get
pieces
worse.
defensively. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to get worse than almost 1 sack a game. Dominique Orange, which great name, defensive tackle. He's high on a PFF top 70, top 80. And then Jontez Williams was really good for them last year. He had 4 picks, which is substantial for a corner in college football in a season. Led the Big 12 in picks last year. I don't expect the defense to necessarily take a huge step back because they didn't lose a lot on the defense.
Yeah.
And regardless of sacks, they won 11 games despite not having a pass rush.
Yeah.
They showed they could work around the weakness for sure.
I think they'll work around that and shouldn't have any trouble there. My biggest thing for them this year is just going to be week 0. Like that Kansas State game, I think is huge. In our recent history, the team that has won that game has gone on to have a pretty good season. Notre Dame comes to mind, of course, Georgia Tech last year.
Yeah.
And then the team that has lost it, at least in the recent history, has had a terrible season in Florida State last year. So that could be a
swing game.
A swing game for an entire season. And it's a big game too. It's Iowa State, Kansas State. That's no pushover.
It's a conference game. You're starting you're kind of defining or potentially defining how your season could go as far as conference championship push, week 0.
Their first 3 weeks, which are just really the only first 2 actual weeks, mattered more than I think the rest of their entire season. That first game and then hosting Iowa matters a ton.
Sure.
Winning that game means a ton. That's one of course, all the in-state rivalries are rivalries, but that's one of the more bitter rivalries between an in-state opponents. So I think those first 3 weeks are huge for them in their season, but I expect them to play well. I don't have them winning week 0, though.
Yeah, it also goes back to, like, winning Iowa helps boost your conference as far as how it's viewed. So we were talking about it earlier with Auburn and Baylor.
Yeah.
And that's another one of those. While Iowa is probably a little bit above, like as far as Auburn and the SEC goes, Iowa's probably above that in the Big Ten. But it's just beneficial to your conference, especially if the Big 12 is trying to push for more teams in the playoff as we determine what that's going to look like going forward. Having wins against Big Ten and SEC teams is beneficial.
Gotcha.
Win total? Thoughts? Yes?
8.5.
7.5.
It is 7.5.
I got
Cool.
over.
I also have the over on these boys.
Yeah, that is very low.
Yeah.
One of the lower. Actually, there were some other pretty extreme ones, but that's a pretty big. That's one of the larger disparities we've seen between last season's record and then this year's projections.
Yeah. I mean, when you bring back Rocco Becht, Matt Campbell has proven he's a kind of a more with less coach. Even if they don't always have the most talented roster, he finds ways to field competitive teams and win games. So I'll definitely take the over on 7.5.